Jack Thompson was the third overall pick in the 1979 NFL draft by the Cincinnati Bengals and the first quarterback taken in that draft. The former Washington State Cougar played 6 years in the NFL, 4 with the Bengals, 2 with Tampa Bay. And Jack, I want to start with the Bengals because you were on that 1981 Super Bowl team that lost to the 49ers at the Silverdome in Pontiac, Michigan. Mm-hmm. To get to that game, the Bengals had to beat the Chargers in what is currently the second coldest NFL game on record, minus 9 degrees at kickoff in Cincinnati. What do you remember about that game?
Well, officially, with the wind chill factor, it was 51 below.
No, it was
that was crazy
that day. I remember watching that in my living room.
Well, I remember coming out coming out of the tunnel, and Forrest Gregg was our head coach, and he tried to get us to be mentally prepared for what we were going to encounter. And he said, "It's all in your mind. It's all in your mind." And I walked out and I took my first breath. I said, "No, that was not all in my mind," because I felt like my first breath I was inhaling needles, like the inside of my mouth and down my throat. It froze instantly. Then, second thing I remember is looking up and I swear I saw 2 crazy guys had no shirt on, painted in Bengal tiger colors, and I said, "Whoa, that's not going to end up good for those guys." I think one of them, didn't fare very well, and but that's this. Rumor has it that he didn't make it.
Wow.
Yeah, but anyway, that's what I remember about that day. I also remember Forrest going to our offensive linemen and telling them, "You want to win this game before we even play it down? Take those long sleeves off," and they did. And they think about it, 9 below, 51 below wind chill factor, and they showed up. And we were outside. The quarterbacks were outside already, getting acclimated. Our offensive linemen come running in without, long sleeves on. And I was looking at the defensive line for San Diego's Chargers, and they all stood up and said, "Those boys are crazy." And so I think what Forrest Gregg had to say resonated.
Yeah.
And our offensive line just did an unbelievable job that day.
Yeah. You guys really, you pounded those guys, and it's just 27-7 was the final. So,
yeah.
Like I said, I remember watching that game, and it's so much easier. It's fun to watch games in the snow and the cold, when you're sitting in your living room in front of the fireplace, and it's like, you start to wonder, because it happens every season, how these guys function in those type of conditions. But that's the NFL. Well,
I saw it up close and in person, and I got to play two plays in that game. Kenny had to come out. Either he got dinged or something was wrong with his helmet. And I went in, and the first play, I think I handed the ball off to Peter Johnson, our 275-pound fullback. and then the second play, I think I hit him in the flat. So I'm 1 for 1 in playoff ball. I'll have you know that, Paul.
All right. All right. That game, Super Bowl 16, you go on to play the 49ers. You guys trail 20-0 at halftime at the Silverdome. But you guys make a game of it. You lose to Joe Montana and the 49ers. 26-21 was the final. I grew up in Michigan, so this is all really fresh to me. So what do you remember about that one?
Well, in that game, what I remember is Hacksaw Reynolds. We were down on the goal line going in for a score, and our alignment, Charlie Alexander was our halfback and Peter was our fullback, and our alignment tipped. In their film study, if I remember correctly, Hacksaw recognized what play was coming, and so because of our alignment, you can see they made adjustments on the defensive front, and I think where Hacksaw ended up moving over or whatever, they stopped us, and had they not, the outcome would have been different.
Yeah,
because we were going in for I think we were on the 2-yard line or something like that, and that was just a well played play by their defense, in particular Hacksaw Reynolds.
Well, I remember you guys going down. You were going to score on your opening drive, and it got picked off, I think.
That's right.
So, now
you're taxing my.
No, I know I am,
yeah.
Jack, because like I said, it's really fresh in my mind, and of course I cheated a little bit. I read up on it, and but you guys, you made a game of it, and but what a thrill for you to be able to be in a Super Bowl, because a lot of guys don't get that opportunity.
No, and I'm going to stretch my memory even more and share a story I don't think I've ever shared before, and it has to do with Kenny Anderson. So Kenny and I was this young pup coming up, and I was on his heels in terms of, vying for that starting position. And going into that year, we're going neck and neck, and I was having a good preseason. And Kenny was having an okay preseason, but I would come in the second half, and at the last game was against, I think, the Broncos. And Forrest, took us into the locker room, into his office, where he got prepared for the game, and he told us whoever has the best game, be looking to start. And I'm licking my chops. Kenny goes out. I forget how he did, but I know that I was just raring to go. Everything was pointing towards that, and somewhere on, I think, the third quarter, I was flushed out of the pocket, was going out of bounds, and their linebacker, reached out and clipped my ankles, and I sustained a high ankle sprain. It was really bad and put me out for 4 weeks. So we go into the season, first game, it was against the Seahawks. Kenny was the starter. He didn't have a good game. And Turk Schonert, the third stringer, came in and did a great job in making some key completions, and Pete Johnson was going nuts on the Seahawks. We ended up winning. So I think the second game was against the Jets. And this is what my memory of and respect for Anderson, it's to this day, it's amazing. And we were sitting in the meeting room, and Kenny was perplexed, and I said, "What's going on?" We didn't really talk, and we weren't buddies. But he said, "Well, I got to go and talk to Coach Greg. People were wondering who are they going to start. They couldn't start me. I wasn't ready. Would they start Turk?" I said, I think I remember I said, "Why don't you go in and talk to him?" And he did. And he went in and basically put it on the line and said, if this is my memory, Paul.
Mm-hmm.
If the team owes me anything, I need to start the next game. That dude went out and just killed it for the rest of the year. He was the MVP of the NFL. And, I've never told that story, I don't think, publicly. But, all the respect in the world for Kenny Anderson, because he got bold. And not only did he go bold, he brought the goods with him and finished the season unbelievable. I think he has he should have a great shot at getting into the Hall, given the cumulative his career. I mean, he was an incredibly accurate passer, great leader. So,
yeah, he was in his 30s, I think, when they drafted you. And
yeah,
and it was one of my questions, but I'm going to give it to you now.
Yeah.
Like, did you think, he played 17 years or something like that with those guys, and was always seemed to playing at a high level. But did you ever think, why did you guys even draft me if you had a guy like Kenny Anderson?
Well, yeah, I did. In fact, them selecting me was a total surprise. I remember I was at home in White Center when the draft took place. I had my family there. I was fully expecting to get a call around 7:35 a.m. That was 10:35, New York time. And I was expecting to go to New York Giants and play for Ray Perkins, because he told me, have your bags packed and the whole bit. And then around 7:15, I get a call. It's from the Bengals. I thought it was a joke. I thought it was my best friend, Dwight Wiseman, pulling my leg. And I said, "Hey, Dwight, this isn't funny. My family's here. You got to get off the line." And the woman on the other side goes, "Excuse me, but Coach Brown wants to talk to you." And right there I said, "Oh, this is not a joke." And Coach Brown, Paul Brown, gets on the phone, and I about dropped my transmission. I'm talking to Paul Brown, and I recognized his voice, and he basically said, we're very happy to select you, and we'd like for you to. We're going to make arrangements for you to come tomorrow. I said, "Yes, sir." So it was a curveball, and
yeah.
I wasn't expecting to go that high, but I think they were projected to take Kellen Winslow, and but I ended up getting selected, and I I loved my time in Cincinnati. Loved my teammates there, Anthony Munoz, Chris Collinsworth, just to name a couple. It was a great place.
Collinsworth, he was, I respect him as a broadcaster now, but he was kind of a badass, wasn't he? Like he took some shots.
Oh yeah, and he was fast. He was tough. He was a tough player, and he speaks with credibility. Well, I love listening to him. I really do. He's really good at he's great at what he does, and and he never seems to get older.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, the dude looks great.
I just saw him walking the press box last week. I'm like, gee whiz, you're right.
Yeah, and I remember he came in with the draft class with my cousin Samoa. And is talking about going way back, but he and Samoa got to be really good friends because Samoa I think is the toughest pound for pound dude I've ever met in my life. And so he and Chris just, hit it off, and they would go and, they enjoyed themselves. Let me put it that way.
Well, what makes him the toughest? Like when you talk about that.
No, he Samoa was a quarterback at WSU. He followed me. And I remember, I think it was Mike Brown said, we're looking for a third down back. Someone who can block, but someone who has great hands and coming out of the backfield, a single back. I said, I got the perfect person for you. And when I said Samoa, he was, what? He's a quarterback. I said, he can play anything. He was a linebacker. Linebacker, he's that tough. And so they sent an assistant coach out here and he ran like a 4.5, 4.6.
Oh, wow.
And so they got him. I've just seen a lot of things about Samoa that let's just say you don't mess with him. And when I was playing at WSU, a heckler was, going after me, and Samoa took care of that. Thank you, Samoa.
Like when you were out on
the field,
out in the field.
He was redshirting.
Okay.
He came to us I think he was at Long Beach City College, and you don't mess with Samoa. And to this day, he's still a dude you don't mess with. So and then he gets selected by the Bengals as a third down back. And they thought they died and gone to heaven, that they got the draft choice, a steal, because he came in and he took no guff from anybody. Doesn't matter if you're the all-pro linebackers that we had to a rookie. He just had he was a black belt in karate. So you just don't mess with Samoa.
Yeah, once that gets out there that you have that kind of credential.
Yes, well, and Chris knew that.
Yeah.
So let's leave it at that.
Okay, yeah. I know. It sounds like there's stories there that you can't get into, but you leave the Bengals, you go to Tampa Bay, and you have maybe statistically your best season in the NFL in 1983, throw for nearly 3,000 yards. Why did it work so well for you with that early Bucs team?
Well, I played for John the ill-fated Olympia Challenge Bowl. They had it at the Kingdom. They had it 2 years. And the first and the format was the Pac-10 takes on all comers. And so the first year they played, I think, the Big Ten, and we won. Dan Dornick, he got MVP of that game. And the second year, Pac-10 played against the Big 12. And Bud Wilkinson, I believe, was the coach on the other side, and John McKay was the coach on our side. And so we won the game, and so he saw me play up close and in person. And so when I got the call from the Bengals that they were going to trade me, and I said, where? The Buccaneers, and they had Doug Williams. I said, why would they even want to get me? It's because they were having contractual issues with Doug, and I was an insurance and for them, and so I ended up going down there and ended up playing for Coach McKay, and because Doug ended up going to the USFL. So
yeah, well,
that was a crazy year.
But boy, the window opened for you down there, and you took full advantage of it.
Well, it did, and the Buccaneers were not without their challenges. It was an interesting deal. When I was in Cincinnati, I loved my teammates. I feel it was reciprocated, both on the defense and on the offense, and I just loved them. when I went down at the Buccaneers, you got to understand, the situation down there. They loved Doug Williams. He earned it. He earned it because he was a great quarterback. And I just got caught up in the mix. And so I really believe that, the blacks were thinking, they didn't view me as black. Mm-hmm. And the whites were thinking, I sure as heck wasn't white. And so it's a weird deal. And but I just figured I just got to go in, shut my mouth, and try to earn their respect. And it just didn't work out. That second year, just things didn't work out.
Well, you guys were 2-14 in that '83 season.
Yeah. I mean, we had a lot of missed field goals, and we had our opportunities. Hell, I was played against Dallas down in Dallas, and that was a weird game. We should have won that game, but I believe we missed a field goal, and I'll never forget it. They had a guy named Thurman. He was
Dennis Thurman.
Dennis Thurman,
yeah.
Thank you, from USC, right? So, I swear, if you look back in the archives, he said something. I saw the cross at the top of the. He saw he had a vision. That they were ordained to win this game, and all I remember is that we played really well, and I got stung by a bee. going under the center one time, and my right hand got stung by a bee. And I was just like, wow, it was crazy. The defensive guys were saying, what's going on, And I played through it.
Because you're shaking your hand.
Yeah, I was shaking. It was just, and I'm allergic to bee stings. And after the game, my hand just blew up, and they gave me a shot. It was a crazy game.
At Texas Stadium?
At Texas Stadium. And the other thing I remember was that it was Roger Staubauch Day. And here I am, my hero. He went by, and they had him sitting in a convertible, and I looked at him, and I waved at him like a kid, right? And he was signing, programs, right? And I looked at him, I said, "Can I get one of those?" He said, "Get over here, Jack." So he gives. I still have it.
Oh, that's
awesome. I still have that program at home.
That is awesome.
And he's the man, man.
And he that doesn't surprise me that he would do that.
He's a class act, and for the NFL period.
Yeah. Was that when you say was that pregame when you guys were
pregame
warming up?
And I was warming up, and they were going to have him go around the stadium in a convertible, and he was going by me, and I'm thinking, there's Roger Staubauch.
I love that you just felt like I can ask him.
Yeah, what the hell? I'm a fan.
That's right.
And but he just a gracious gentleman, and he's get over here, Jack. So he gave it to me.
That's really cool.
Yeah,
that's a great story, man. When you look back at your career, did you picture it going another way for you?
Oh yeah, sure. Anyone who goes into the NFL, you picture the Hall of Fame. Seriously. I mean, I think I speak for most everyone who's ever put on an NFL uniform. But it didn't happen that way, and I am so grateful for the experiences that came out of it and the friendships that I've made. The guys that I played with in Cincinnati, they're lifelong friends. Didn't make as many friends in Tampa, but I made a lot of friends outside of football down in Tampa. So it was a great opportunity.
Why was it cut short, Jack? Was it an injury, or was it were you just done playing?
Good question. When I was released by the Buccaneers, I was going doing tryouts all over the place. I remember going to got a tryout with it. I think they were in L.A. at the time, Raiders, and I'm thinking, there's no sense to be shy, So Al. The owner.
Yeah, Al Davis.
Al Davis, he was walking. I remember going up to him and said, "Mr. Davis, give me a shot. You won't regret it." He didn't give me a shot. I think he regretted it. No, I don't think so. But I had a real good workout. I really did. And because I figured, the Raiders, they love, pushing the ball downfield. That was like right up my alley. And so I was throwing the ball like I've never thrown before. And it just wasn't to be. And then I had a tryout with the Buffalo Bills, and I had an interview with the doctor afterwards. They're checking and he was checking my knees, my left knee in particular, and he goes, he started asking questions that caused me to think differently. He said, so, you have kids, right? I said, 2 boys. And he goes, and I'm sure that when you turn 45, you want to be able to run with them and stuff like that. And I said, of course. He says, you may want to consider getting out of the game. He started asking questions. Do you have your degree? I said, yeah. He goes, well, you may want to consider it because he painted a picture. If you go this line, that knee is bad. And it is now. I need a new knee. I needed a new knee 10 years ago, 15 years ago. But he caused me to think differently about the trajectory of my, football days and where I was going. I thought maybe I was going to, get another shot. But, I think I mentally, closed it down, after that talk because I was thinking, is it really worth it? And so, no regrets, actually. No regrets.
But did you have any idea that your knee was that bad?
I kinda.
Yeah?
Kinda, because, my knee would slip and it would swell up and, yeah, because I had hurt the knee. Goes back to my freshman year at WSU, and it was a bad tear. And this is, then I got operated on, old school operation, right? Not like you do it now. And so.
What's that, no anesthetic or?
Oh, no. Yeah, I'm glad. Shoot. They definitely they put me out. And but, they have railroad tracks,
Oh, yeah.
And they cut, I believe they cut one of the muscles and restrapped it. That's how they treated it back in the day. And because I tore my MCL and ACL. I tore it all, and now it's really bad. So,
well, you still look good, Jack, man.
No,
I mean, you walked in here today, and people were recognizing you, and they're like immediately know who you are. You're one of only 2 players to have your number retired at WSU, which I think is just an honor. I mean, it's unbelievable. That has to be an incredible sense of pride for you.
It is. It is. In light of the fact that all the players that came before me and after me, it's an honor that I don't take for granted. And candidly, I believe that I owe that to Keith Lincoln, who was definitely my football mentor and in life, and how to be a Cougar mentor. I have like 3 of them. Keith was one of them, and he was like my surrogate father. He loved my family, and my family loved him. And and he knew of all the things, all the slings and arrows that took place while I was there. And I had 4 head coaches in 4 years. I felt like I had to grow up faster because, when the season ended, the coach would take off, would bolt on us, right? And they would lie to us basically to get the job. I don't want to get into the name.
No, but you almost understand that years later.
Yeah.
You're like, what else are they supposed to do?
Right, right.
They can't really come completely clean with you. You're just kids, and they don't want to get the word out.
And I was really got hacked off, but I feel like I grew up. Don't necessarily believe what everyone says. And but Keith was he's my confidant. I have a lifelong friend. He's like my older brother, Carl Lopez. He was our attorney, my attorney. So Keith and Carl Lopez, he's out of Seattle, they're my agents. And Keith was there my first contract. But Keith, I always went to him, and I confided in him. And between him and Carl Lopez, they're the ones that convinced me to come back my senior year, because I had redshirted. And back in the day, I could have gone pro after my junior year. And, Keith and Carl, particularly Carl, would ask me, what do you want out of life? I said, well, I want to, live in Seattle. And he really got the essence of this Cougar family. He said, and this is my attorney who gave me advice. I'd advise you to stay. think about that nowadays, right?
Yeah.
That thinking would not even exist. But Carl, it was the right thing to do. He basically said, your school, if they ever needed you, they need you now, because I was sick of this, revolving door deal and with head coaches. So I came back, and with all that in mind, when at the end of my senior year, the story has it, legend has it, that there was this has never been spoken before, Paul. I'm going to tell you that publicly. Keith was in a meeting. Sam Jankovic was the athletic director. I think it was the Hall of Fame committee meeting for Washington State University, and they covered all the business at hand and any new business. And Keith says, "Yeah, I'd like to take a vote on something," and he's the one that said, "I want to vote to retire Jack Thompson's jersey." And I think it was Sam that said, "Well, that's impossible, and there's a 5-year, grace period." And Keith was pretty insistent, and they voted on it, and so that was right after my senior year, football season, and they retired my jersey. The ceremony, if you want to call it that, took place at the UCLA basketball game a month or so later.
Wow!
So it was
I didn't realize it was so quick.
It was a rush job, but it was Keith Lincoln that did that. I didn't have a chance to. I went to Keith's memorial. I get choked up just thinking about it. His life celebration service that took place in WCU earlier this season, and I'm just thinking about guys that have helped me in my lifetime. Keith Lincoln was the man. And, he taught me, part of being a Coug is just be bold, and say your piece, speak your truth, and be done with it. And so, that's something that I try to pass on to, young Cougs that I encounter.
Well, you talk about Keith and some of the mentors you had, but I know after talking to Robbie Tobeck that you were tremendous for him, and you got him that shot at Wazoo, and he was so grateful when we talked, so grateful to have you in his life. What is your relationship like, and what was it like with Robbie?
Robbie's like my kid brother. He really is. He's family to my sisters, to my boys. That relationship is very special because he's been a great mentor to my boys. His work ethic, unbelievable. His fathering, my son Jack has 2 boys, and a lot of his, fathering, he witnessed from with Robbie, and he is just a great guy. Very fortunate. If he says he's fortunate to have me in his life, I'm fortunate to have him in my life. Just a great guy. He's my. I think Walter Jones sent out a tweet. You vote your favorite. Seahawk. Mm-hmm. Well, he was my number 1 favorite Seahawk. then Zorn and Largent, and then Manu, right?
Yeah.
And my son Tony, he tweeted out all Robbie Tobeck. You see, so we're really close. He is just a great man, but he had a funky, what do you call that, in the back, a mullet. Oh my gosh. When he signed from he came from he was at a JC college down in Kilgore, Texas, right? Yeah. And he signed with Mike Price, and he came and spent a week with us before he went to Pullman, right? And he shows up with this mullet, and I'm thinking, holy hell. Oh, my gosh. And then he had this southern drawl, and he kept on saying, And so he and I had a heart-to-heart talk. I said, dude, this ain't Texas. This sure as hell ain't Kilgore, Texas. All due respect to Kilgore. But, man, he has turned out to be just a wonderful man and my brother.
But you got him you got Mike Price to look at him.
Oh,
correct?
That's a funny story. Okay, with Mike Price, right? Because Robbie played really well at Cougar Community College in his freshman year. Then he got hurt, and his sophomore year, he was a captain on the team. He got hurt that first game, hurt his knee. I think they operated on it. That dude gets operated on. He plays the last 2 games or the last game. And I'm thinking, well, he's got to be bold. He's just got to. So I called Price as a coach. I got a guy, and he was getting recruited by other schools until he got hurt. And Coach Price said, oh, come on, Jack. As a coach, just, fly him, give him a trip up to WC. I swear, when you meet him, you're going to realize you need a guy like him. Because, he was just a natural leader, right? And he was playing defense at the time. So he takes a trip up there. Then I get a call on a Sunday night from Price. He goes, Thompson, you son of a... right? So what's going on? He says, I don't know what I'm going to do with him, but I gave him a scholarship. I said, are you kidding me? He said, yeah, and he better pan out, like that. I say, Coach, I guarantee you he will be a great teammate. Just his personality, right, and his will to succeed. And sure enough, he comes in and he didn't get along with the defensive coach.
Yeah, I remember him telling me.
Yeah,
that.
He did not. I said, so he would call me. He and I talked all the time. He says, I do not lose your temper. Do not do that, and go talk to Coach Price. And so Coach said, let's try you on offense. And, Robbie did what I think, I call it reverse evolution. He was a linebacker, so he started on all twos, right? And he gradually went down to all fours, because he went from linebacker to defensive end to defensive tackle, then over on the other side, and he finally found a place. And he played center, I think, because of his relationship with Drew, and they're roommates. And Drew was the one that convinced Coach Price to give him a shot at center because Steve Wolf, the starting center, hurt his knee. And they were looking for a center, and Bledsoe was the one that said, give Robbie a shot.
And actually kind of taught Robbie to be a center, right?
How
to
absolutely.
Play the position.
They were teaching each other. They were just kids, those two. I mean, and they were, to this day, those two can really do a comedy act. I mean, it's just hilarious being around Bledsoe and Tobeck.
Really?
Oh yeah. I mean, it just comes naturally. Robbie's always the instigator, and then Drew would come back with an insult, and then Robbie would, it's just, I'd buy a ticket to watch it. They're really great.
Tobeck used to be one more note on him. He used to be the go-to guy for us in the media when he was with the Seahawks because he was so good. Yeah. And I think he got tired of us after a while because he was the go-to guy. We'd go right to him and say, give us something funny, especially in training camp because you know how monotonous that can be. And I think he got tired of seeing us, but you are, that does not surprise me. Now, I haven't talked much at all with Drew Bledsoe, to be honest with you. So I'm looking forward to sitting down with him someday. But
get him on Tobeck, and you'll need 3 hours.
Yeah.
Those two are
3-part podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
Where did the nickname Throwing Samoan come from?
Harry Missildine, Spokesman Review. I remember the game I just kind of snuck onto the field. Minnesota game was our second game of the season, and I ended up doing fairly well and gave me my shot. And the Wisconsin game, going into the Wisconsin, I had a good second half against Minnesota. Okay, here's a bit of trivia for you. Who is the quarterback for Minnesota? You got 10 seconds here, Paul.
For the Golden Gophers?
Yeah.
Back in your day?
Back in my day.
No, I did.
Honk. Tony Dungy.
Really?
Yes.
Wow,
he was
that's
awesome.
A good one.
He was a great. I was just watching this dude throw and run like it was going out of style. But so I got in on that in the first half. Cheryl did not like me, but our offensive coordinator Bob Leahy went to bat for me, I was the third string quarterback. And Cheryl said, whatever, he's on your head. And so they started me the second half and did fairly well. Going into the Wisconsin game, it was really strange, Paul. So, I'm thinking, I may or may not play, but I'm feeling good about it. Then Saturday morning, I wake up, and on the cover of the sports page, it said, the throwing Samoan is in town. I said, who's that? And then it had a picture of me, and I said, holy crap, this is great, And but it wasn't a given that I was going to play, but after the first series, Coach Leahy stuck me in there, and I stayed.
Yeah.
But it was Harry Missildine that coined that nickname. So
for those who don't know Harry Missildine.
Oh, Harry Missildine he's iconic in the Cougar, Cougar history. He was out of Spokane. He was that the Odd Couple, that show, The Odd Couple, between the guy is the sports writer, and he's
sure.
He was all over the place. That's Harry Missildine.
Yeah.
He was iconic, certainly amongst us football players, because he was hilarious. But he was a great writer, and I vaguely remember talking to him about nicknames. And next thing you know, I see this throwing Samoan thing. Well, it stuck because my dad let it stick. I remember talking to him, what do you think about that? And he goes, well, you're Samoan, right? I said, yeah. And you throw the ball, right? Yeah. He said, I like it. So,
that's great, man.
That's the end of that story.
No, that's a good one. But now Papa Throw is your Twitter handle, right?
Who gave that to me? Taylor Rochester.
Oh, yeah.
Taylor and my son Tony are best of friends, and they were convincing me to go Twitter, right? I didn't know what the heck Twitter was, and my son said, you just can't go with your name, Pop, and it was Taylor. He called me Papa Throw all the time. He said, go with Papa Throw. That's how that came about. Yeah,
Rochester played. He was one of the great Cougar basketball players back in the day, and he. And then you guys, I see you're doing these videos, and I'll be honest with you, Jack, you're pretty active on Twitter. It's like you got this Papa Throws picks.
Yeah.
So what is that something you're going to continue to do now going forward? Or
Paul, that was a fun experience, and that was the brainchild of my son and his business partner, Josue Schneegens is his last name. And Josue is a master film guy, and he does a lot of filming, video for Washington State University. He and Tony became really good friends, and they do all these. They have their own private business, and they've done commercials and things of that nature. And Tony came up to me and asked me, would I be willing to do a weekly 1 minute shtick, previewing the upcoming week's game, whatever. I said, sure, I'm going to start doing some homework. And then he comes to me, I think a week later, and said, yeah, Josue and I were talking about doing a twist, doing a more comical. I said, hell no. that ain't me. No way. You kidding me? And my wife says, you're going to do that. You got to trust Tony. He's not going to put you in harm's way. I said, okay.
Wow.
And so it's been really fun. It's a real, and then we always finish off with the term, Cougs by 50.
I know. That's
by no disrespect to the people we're
right.
playing. It's a parody, right? And it plays to the ever positive nature within all of us Cougs. I use it for Cougs by 50 when I'm talking about our women's soccer team.
Yeah.
Our women's volleyball team. It's just a saying that epitomizes the Cougar spirit, I think. And my son Tony and Josue came up with that. I said, Cougs by 50, are you kidding? People are going to be ripping me. But he said, trust me, Pop. After the first or second installment, they're going to realize this is just in fun. And I said, okay, I trust you. And I trust him. All kidding aside, it's been a fun deal. Did you see that last one with Robbie and Drew?
No.
Paul, you got to see it. Those two, again, you'll get a sense of how crazy they are with each other. And I just had a blast.
Was that at the end of
Yeah,
this past season?
for the Apple Cup.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I had to fire them because they did nothing for us against in the Apple Cup.
So to follow you on Twitter, it's at Papa Throw.
Papa Throws Picks.
Okay, Papa Throws Picks.
That's a Twitter handle that Tony created.
Right. But for you too,
and they manage. Well, yeah.
But for you, people want to, because you're so much involved in the school still.
Yeah, I'm on the board of directors of the foundation.
Yeah.
It's a labor of love. It's volunteerism at its best for me, because I don't think you'll find someone as passionate about WSU. I know a couple people that give me a run for my money.
Yeah.
But
no one more passionate than you.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
I agree with you.
Yeah, I mean, and I've seen it, and
wow.
And your passion for that university, and you see the way the Mike Leach era has gone there. I just want to ask you, as we wrap it up, a question about Mike Leach. Are you, as we talked about before, coaches come and go, and he's had some opportunities, probably more than we even know. But he has signed on for an extension, and it looks like he's going to be here at least for another season. What's your thoughts on the way things go?
Bottom line, I love Mike Leach.
Yeah,
but I have a different, albeit a different perch in viewing Mike Leach, because he and I become friends, and it was the situation that had to do with a couple of his players. Samoan players a couple years back. I don't know if you remember that, with Robert Barber incident. And he called me and said, look, you know me. If they're bad people, they're gone. And in a nutshell, he says they're not bad people. They're good young men. There's a language barrier that was not taken into consideration, and they didn't do what is being painted out in the press. And I heard a man that really was passionate about the people that he coached, and he said they're good people, Jack. He went on to talk about his rugby days, and he had played with Samoans, and good ones and the bad ones. These are good people. All of them were from American Samoa. And so I said, well, I need to interview them. And he says, anything you need. And I went back there on a Wednesday, and I talked to them. My blood boiled, because I read the ruling by one of the student conduct judges. I said, it is our intent to see that you never get a degree from Washington State University. He was one credit shy from graduating. And that set me off, and particularly after I met with him and I saw what Coach Leach was talking about. And so I'm biased towards him, and will be, because I see that other side, notwithstanding some of the things he says, right? But I'm not going to be waffling on him. What he has done for Washington State University, goes back to Bill Moose and Elson Floyd. By getting Mike in there brought us relevance, surrounding him with the facilities that we were. Candidly, it was a joke. Yeah. And Bill did a great job, and now we're so lucky, because I think Pat Chun is the best athletic director
he's great
we've ever had.
Really, that's high praise for Pat.
Yeah. I say that Bill Moose is a great friend, and what he did for us what we needed to have done. But now being around Pat Chun, well, that dude is the real deal, and he has a great relationship with Coach Leach. But he works for Kirk Schultz. I never thought, when Elson Floyd passed, I'm thinking that's the best president. Well, Kirk Schultz is building quite a legacy there as the president of our university. The two of them, we couldn't ask for better leaders of our school. And you know where I stand with Mike Leach.
Yeah, you're right. Bill Moose was the guy for the time, because he needed to raise funds and get that stuff built, and he got it done, and then hands it over to Pat. And Pat, I've sat down and talked to him. And,
thank you for saying that, because it's true.
Yeah. So you're right. It came in steps, but that university is right where it needs to be when it comes to Pat Chun and Kirk. I want to ask you one last question about Mike Leach. Have you ever seen the guy smile?
Yeah,
I'm serious.
No, I have
more than just a little snicker. I mean, Jack, this guy, he's so deadpan all the time, even on his jokes.
Well, I spent time with him in Samoa, with June Jones, and because I encouraged him to go back to Samoa, and if you're going to go back with June Jones. June's a dear friend, and they get along really well, and June loves him, and when June was taking him around American Samoa, I saw a different side of Coach Leach, and a funner, lighter side, and now he swears he's going to buy a place. He said, we should buy a place in Samoa. I said, why don't you buy a place and I'll stay in your pool house? and he says, I'll think about that one. So, yeah.
That's good, man. That's really good to hear that about Mike Leach, and the fact that you're so satisfied with the way things are going over there, because you've been in it since you left. I mean, it feels like you are a Cougar through and through, and most Cougars I talk to are like that too. But you are passionate about it, Jack. And
well, Paul, if I can say one last thing about Leach,
absolutely.
What do you want in your head coach, notwithstanding the PR element, right? You want your head coach to win, bring a program that we can be proud of. You want your head coach to, produce players who graduate. And if you look at what he's done on our academic side, it's aces. We're graduating, football players at a rate, that's far different what they used to be, and our GPA on our football team is on the rise, and so he's doing it there, and so again, there's a trade-off here. I'll take that trade-off anytime right now.
Yeah,
and
people always look at wins and losses with head coaches, but I mean, just in the short time you've chatted about him, you realize as a parent out there, and you send your kids there to play football, that they're getting a much more well-rounded look at life when you have a head coach like Mike Leach at the helm.
Well, I've talked with a couple of the quarterbacks, and I said, look, if you're looking for a head coach to be the touchy-feely, pat you in the back, great job, Leach isn't going to do that. That's not in him. So, set your expectations properly. But if hell, if I was coming out of high school and the prospects of throwing 70 times a game, you tell me, Paul. You played the game.
Yeah, but you would go nuts in that offense, Jack.
Oh, my gosh, yes. So, Leach and I talk about it all the time. I said, but I guess that's physically impossible because you're like 5 years younger than me. So we can't go back. But I enjoy him, obviously. I do. But then again, my caveat there is I know him differently than most people. I get what's going on out there. I get it. But I'm going to stick with it.
Yeah, I think it's great, man. Oh, it's been great catching up with you, Jack.
Likewise,
this is great stories from your past, and I really appreciate you sharing them with us.
My pleasure. It's good to hang with you.
All right, thanks.
All right.